And thanks for joining us on the news at 10. We're live in Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Anne Jibuno. Here are the headlines. Federal Executive Council approves second phase of the National Sugar Master Plan 2023 to 2033.
We are hopeful that Nigeria will be able to produce 1.7 to 1.8 billion metric tons of sugar a year.
Senate considers bill to regulate and formalize employment of domestic workers in Nigeria. People's Democratic Party inaugurates 326-man national campaign organization for the 2023 presidential election.
Collectively as a family and expeditiously to ensure the victory of our party.
The Federal Executive Council approved the second phase of the National Sugar Master Plan 2023 to 2033. This is aimed at enhancing the development of the nation's sugar industry towards achieving self-sufficiency in sugar production. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Ni Adebayo, announced this while briefing journalists after the Council's meeting.
The second phase of the National Sugar Master Plan has several policy measures and fiscal incentives towards stimulating demand and attracting private sector investment in the sugar industry. Under the first phase, implemented from 2012 to 2022, 4 major investors who invested in the industry, including Dangote and Boa Groups, jointly acquired about 200,000 hectares of land for sugarcane production to enable them produce sugar locally, and in the process created 15,000 jobs.
We are hoping that as a result of this phase 2, we will be able to create 110,000 jobs from it. We are hopeful that Nigeria will be able to produce 1.7 to 1.8 billion metric tons of sugar a year, thus eliminating the $350 million that we spent on the importation of raw sugar. We are hoping to produce 161 million liters of ethanol annually, which will thus eliminate $65.8 million of ethanol imports annually. We are hoping to generate 400 megawatts of electricity, and we're hoping to produce 1.6 million tons of animal feed annually.
His mines and steel development counterpart, Olamilekong Adegbite, also secured a 1.5 billion naira approval for the construction of a 27-kilometer long and 2.9-meter high retaining wall around the Salt Lake in Ebonyi State.
We have that resource there in Ebonyi State. There are salt lakes. You know, the salt oozes from under, and the salt comes there when the water dries out. But when the rain comes, it washes the salt out, which is why we are putting this retaining wall now, so the salt cannot go out. We can mine it. So this will be the first of its kind in Nigeria. It will of course replace all the money we spend, about $88 million annually, importing such salt.
This is on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, who presented a memo for the approval of the award of contract for the rehabilitation of the Iduani Otuo Road, which links Ondo and Edo states. The contract is for a sum of 27 billion naira.
Meanwhile, a 580.5 million naira contract has been approved for the procurement of 4 customized security vehicles of 14-seater model for the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
It is common knowledge to all that of recent, NDLEA have been recording an extraordinary, unprecedented success. Between January and July 2022, NDLEA have succeeded in arresting over 18,940 suspects. They have equally secured 2,904 convictions within the period, which has led in effect to the unprecedented reprisal attacks on officers. So with the progress being recorded, it becomes relevant and necessary that the agency be supported with armored vehicles.
Of recent recollection in memory, the minister said, is the seizure of 1,855 kilograms of cocaine valued at $278 million or 194 billion naira in Lagos by the agency, the largest in the history of the drug war in Nigeria. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the National Council on Climate Change with the mandate of formulating appropriate policies towards achieving green growth and sustainable economic development for Nigeria. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Climate change, described as complex and dynamic, is without doubt one of the biggest challenges facing humanity. Multidimensional and multisectoral initiatives are therefore required to not only address its impact, but also avert its rapid advance. President Muhammadu Buhari is particularly worried over the latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, which warned that rising greenhouse gas emissions could soon outstrip the ability of communities to adapt, and the window for taking decisive steps needed to spare the planet from its gravest impact is rapidly narrowing.
We cannot ignore what is happening in our local environment. The increasing reoccurrence of floods in several parts of the country is a wake-up call. Let me, at this point, reiterate the determination of this administration to strengthen our national response to climate change and accelerate the implementation of decisive actions to reduce its impacts on our people and our economy.
The coming into effect of the Council, President Buhari said, marked the commencement of the implementation of the Climate Change Act 2021 and a new chapter in the renewed response to climate change in the country.
As we approach COP27 to be held in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, I am optimistic that the National Council on Climate Change will harmonize all issues relating to climate change, energy transition plan, and the carbon trading framework, etc., in line with its mandate under the Act, so that Nigeria can have a robust and impactful outing that captures Nigeria's climate change priorities.
President Buhari, who used the occasion to thank Vice President Yemi Osinbajo for heading Nigeria's energy transition plan, presiding over the global launch of the plan and initiating its marketing in the United States, urged the Council to consolidate on these first steps and ensure a sustained marketing of the plan.
Indeed, the composition of the Council is a reflection of the magnitude of the problem and the seriousness of our response.
Mr. President, sir, you have since COP26 in Glasgow demonstrated immense leadership towards Nigeria's quest for net zero by 2060. You have walked the talk, and we thank you immensely for all your commitment towards climate change.
The National Council on Climate Change has President Muhammadu Buhari as chairman, while Dr. Salisu Dahiru, Director General of the Council, will serve as secretary. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The federal government has declared Monday, October 3rd, 2022 as public holiday to commemorate the nation's 62nd independence anniversary celebration. In a statement, the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, congratulates all Nigerians on this year's celebration and assures of government's commitment to tackling the nation's challenges. He therefore admonishes all Nigerians to work with the current administration in its quest to ensure a better country for all. The minister urges Nigerians to shun violence, be security conscious, and report all suspicious persons or activities to the nearest security agency, as well as through the N-Alert application on Android and iOS for prompt response. Rehearsals for Nigeria's 62nd anniversary since gaining independence has kicked off in earnest at the Eagle Square in Abuja without revealing too much. Defense correspondents Ismail Musa and Najatu Tijani bring us highlights of the rehearsals.
It is not unusual to see occasional jet or Nigerian Air Force platforms stranded in the sky. But this time around, something is in the air. FCT residents seems impressed with the air display, part of rehearsals for the Independence Day celebration. Details of the celebration largely classified. However, organizers say measures have been put in place to ensure adequate security at the Eagle Square and other strategic locations around the FCT. In the meantime, citizens can look forward to a spectacular show on 1st October 2022. I'm Ismail Musa. My colleague Najatu has more.
Excitement is in the air for these citizens who are privileged to catch a glimpse of rehearsals for the forthcoming Independence Day Parade at Eagle Square.
What interests me most is the way the cultural troupe they displayed how we got our independence and how the Civil War broke up, and after that they now resolved that we should live together.
The marching order and then the display of the aircraft and all that
This year's parade will center on the theme of strength in unity and will also have elements of surprise.
Leaders positively comes together to let the dream and aspiration of every patriotic citizen come true.
Without giving much away, it promises to be an exciting parade full of pomp and pageantry as Nigeria marks 62 years since gaining independence.
As a citizen, I think the change stands for me.
Do you know how old Nigeria is going to be on Saturday?
62.
What do you wish Nigeria at 62?
I wish them about good luck.
Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
Okay, it's you're watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24. Let's pause for a break now. We have more reports ahead.
The launch of an awe-inspiring story of an orphan girl who became one of the most sought-after makeup artists.
I first met Herrera about 17 years ago when she did my makeup for an overnight broadcast that I was anchoring at CBS News.
I am so excited about her new book, The Audacity of an African Girl.
The Audacity of an African Girl, a tale of perseverance to inspire every young girl with big dreams like Herrera Musa.
Congratulations for bringing this up to the global stage. I just hope you enjoy the story of her life.
Herrera, I'm so proud of you. Best of luck with your book. I can't wait to read it.
Date 8th of October 2022. Venue, Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja. Time, 1 p.m. prompt. Mother of the Day, Her Excellency Dr. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Father of the Day, His Eminence Alhaji Muhammadu Sa'ad Abubakar III, the Sultan of Sokoto. Special guest, His Royal Highness Emir of Kano Alhaji Aminu Adobayero. Book reviewer, Professor Ladi Hamalai, former Director General, National Institute of Legislative Studies, Maitama, Abuja. For inquiries, contact media team on 0803 311 7676. This is NTA News 24.
Thanks for staying with us. Hiring and firing of domestic workers at will and treating them without human dignity will soon be a thing of the past, with the Senate considering a bill that will regulate and formalize the employment of domestic workers in Nigeria. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Ngwo reports that the bill has passed second reading.
It was the second and last plenary of the week. Only one bill was scheduled for second reading. It is the bill that converts regulation of apprenticeships, interns, and informal sector employees and to empower the National Directorate of Employment to issue license and monitor privately owned employment agencies so as to check abuse. Senator Sani Musa is the sponsor.
Issues in informal sector labor practice within the informal sector of Nigerian economy show evidence of violation of employees' rights and non-implementation of labor regulations.
Globally, Mr. President, this private sector is purely regulated in the interest and for the interest of every citizen of any of those countries above, including Nigeria, so that we protect those who are also employing, at the same way we are also protecting those who are being employed. I think if this is not properly captured, that also should be looked at.
And monitor privately owned employment agencies whose responsibility will be to enroll employees in their data bank, safeguard and enhance their social security, and oversee their recruitment by employers who engage in legitimate occupation.
Senate passed the Federal University of Gusau Zamfara State Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Sahabi Yao. It urged the Federal Ministry of Works to urgently commence repairs on the failed portion of Benin Awuchi Okene Benin Sapele and Ewu Uromi Abo roads. Senator Emmanuel Bwacha drew the attention of the Senate to attacks in Kutep communities of Osa and Takum in southern Taraba. He acknowledged the intervention of security agencies and urged them to strengthen surveillance in the areas.
The journey from Auchi to Benin that used to take 1 hour, 30 minutes, now takes 4 hours.
Come up with a plan to settle all linked issues, body on the dualization of the roads with contractors, and also review the terms and conditions of the contract.
The military be encouraged to step up their defense of these communities, and I want to encourage them to keep fighting as we are beginning to see results in the war against insurgency.
Senate paid tribute to a Third Republic senator from Imo State, Boniface Chukwudi Agulane, who died recently, as moved by Senator Frank Ibezim from the National Assembly. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Senate has promised to strengthen existing legislation to end gas flaring in the country. Chairman Senate Committee on Ecology and Climate Change, Hassan Lawal Anka, announced this in Port Harcourt at the National Green Summit on collective action for gas emission reduction and climate change in Nigeria. Emmanuel Lene reports.
Global statistics indicate that Nigeria still ranks in the top 10 gas flaring countries in the world, with their impacts and catastrophic consequences. Some of the far-reaching environmental and health effects include climate change by trapping heat, air pollution contributing to respiratory diseases and extreme weather, food supply disruptions, and increased wildfires. The National Green Summit on collective action for gas emission reduction and climate change mitigation in Nigeria is organized by the Senate Committee on Ecology and Climate Change in an attempt to address these challenges.
Just to sit down and see how to put a law. Any people that draft their paper here, we collect their papers, we go and harmonize them and see how can we adjust or adopt any law again so that we can put it in the climate change problem that we have in Nigeria.
We all know the National Assembly is also tasked to make laws. So by listening to these needs and these challenges and also ultimately the solutions, they'll be able to come up with better laws. They'll be able to protect the environment and also, support Nigeria.
The summit, which attracted public and private stakeholders, was a platform to dialogue, engage, and align on a roadmap to advance the implementation of the Climate Change Act, reduce gas emission, and achieve Nigeria's net zero goals by 2060. It featured paper presentations and panel of discussion. The ideas generated at the summit will help the Senate intervene proactively to strengthen existing legislations to align with international best practices. In Port Harcourt, Emmanuel Lene, NTA News.
Though we all agreed with Fela Kuti when he sang that water has no enemy, we however know that water will always find its level. So the recent warning by several relevant authorities of impending flooding in many states of the Federation is fast becoming a reality, as settlements along the banks of River Benue are grappling with severe flooding. Elias Itiav, who visited some of the affected communities, reports that people have been forced to evacuate to safer areas.
Global warming occasioned by climate change has continued to remain a threat on several communities around the world, with effects of emissions and extreme weather conditions such as flooding and other environmental disasters. Benue, like many other states in Nigeria, is grappling with the devastating effects of flooding, which has sacked several communities, particularly those along the banks of River Benue.
If there is any way the federal government can, they can dredge the river and look for a way to protect the river bank by building a wall, so that if the water comes, will not come and affect houses.
If government can just maybe allocate one layout and give us so that you can go and build your own thatch houses and occupy, it will be easy for us to do same. Otherwise, it was 2012 and by 2022 already we are experiencing another flood. You can see the level of water that is coming, and they are still saying they are releasing more water.
More than 50 houses now don't affect. Most of the people don't go. And I come here to do security work. Cannot security myself now. Nobody from the community. Who are the guide again? And to revise back.
I'm packing that load like beds, that television, things that food stuff.
For these victims of flooding, the situation has compelled them to relocate to safer grounds, pending when the flood waters will recede.
If there is a barricade of concrete, I feel it will help us very, very well. From the riverside down, if they get the barricades, the flood, I think it will not be carrying us. We people are allowing there from here to Rice Mill side.
We just the manager, they come out our store and the rest of them go outside, go and cook, come back.
The situation is getting very worse because the rain has, the flood has affected everywhere. From the mosque, all those blocks to even my house now. We are now at the moment now I'm waiting for motor to pack my luggages.
An environmental expert, Professor Bernard Tube, who attributed the current global warming to human activities such as gas emissions, deforestation, and others, says it is a call for global action in addressing the challenge.
We are already experiencing a tremendous change within the climate system that is giving rise to noticeable impact worldwide. The rising sea level, the increase in extreme weather events, the heat waves, the flooding, heavy downpour, an increase in the number of storms, the hurricanes, the typhoon, and also changes in weather patterns.
He advocated a multi-sectoral approach towards addressing what has become a source of concern for all.
It is a call for all of us to approach these two perspectives at the same time. Mitigation practices and adaptation strategies, so that we can be able to work towards reducing carbon emissions and work towards coping with these climate related challenges that we have found ourselves that we cannot prevent.
As a way of addressing what has become an annual threat to communities, particularly along the riverbanks, stakeholders advocate the construction of more drainage channels as well as dredging of the River Benue in order to put an end to this. Elias Itiav, NTA News.
President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, says the 9th National Assembly will leave no stone unturned in the process of unveiling issues surrounding non-compliance with the laws guiding the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. This was while he pledged. This was a pledge while inaugurating the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Non-Compliance with the Petroleum Act and Oil Mining Lease. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu reports.
Non-adherence to the guidelines for oil and gas exploration in Nigeria, loss of oil revenue, as well as other challenges bedeviling oil investment in Nigeria are some of the issues that this Senate Ad Hoc Committee is mandated to investigate.
This investigation is an opportunity to right the wrong and bring any offender to book as obtainable outside the shores of this country.
President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, said the investigation will cut across the international oil companies in Nigeria and the relevant government agencies.
Who are stealing our oil in massive scale that makes our country to lose so much from what ordinarily should be our revenues, should have no hiding place.
The legislation process, when completed, is expected to strengthen investments in the country's oil and gas sector within the confines of the law. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
The Nigeria-India LPG Summit, a bilateral exchange to drive rapid liquefied petroleum gas LPG penetration while leveraging the Indian success story, is holding in Abuja. Organized by the NNPC Limited with support from the Office of the Vice President, the summit is discussing Nigeria's experience at identifying gaps militating against liquefied petroleum gas penetration in the country. Lydia Sampson reports.
The Nigerian gas market has enormous potentials. Michael Kelly of the World LPG Association says anyone or investor yet to realize Nigeria's LPG potential is simply not paying attention.
Anyone in the world, anyone who does not think that Nigeria will one day be an LPG superpower is simply not paying attention to what's happening on the ground here.
Now, in 3 years, the Indian government achieved significant liquefied petroleum gas consumption of almost 100%. This is acclaimed one of the best global examples of rapid LPG penetration. Replication of these gas adoption and penetration is what necessitated the summit.
Nigeria, as of last year, did about 1.7 million metric tons of LPG, but there are lots of programs in place for us to also, get very high per capita use of LPG in Nigeria going forward.
It's about LPG expansion in the country, which we have a huge potential. We have the population and we have the gas. In fact, Nigeria is a gas province with little oil, basically.
Key players say the industry must target reducing poverty through the use of cleaner fuel and save people from dying of smoke inhalation from other harmful sources. The Nigerian government, through its gas expansion program, has some deliberate policies in place to change the narrative.
The predominant use of biomass for household cooking results in deforestation and ambient air pollution, which also leads to deaths due to stroke, heart disease, lung cancer, and chronic respiratory diseases.
The optimism here is palpable, but key players here agree getting the buy-in of end users is critical, especially women who will hitherto say, "I'm afraid to use gas because I have children, it's not safe." Wait a minute, experts here say it is safer to use gas because you have children to save them and indeed society from smoke-related diseases. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
The news at 10 is reaching you on NTA News 24. Ahead in the news.
So why that was not made overnight. It's been years and years of labor. But if you have a young doctor now, he wants to be Dr. Wada in 2 days or 3 days. It doesn't work that way.
Their struggles.
I'm just so happy that, God used me to give hope to Ali, because without us, Ali would have been dead by now. And I'm sure there are over 1,001 other Alis out there that we don't even know.
Their stories.
I am elected and I swore to defend everybody that is resident within Plateau State. I'm not the chief security officer of my tribe or a religion. I'm chief security officer of everybody.
Their wins.
I walked into NTA. If you didn't say, he hears my voice. He said, "My friend, has anybody auditioned you before?" And I said, "No, you need to go to the studio. We need to employ you as a staff of NTA." I was excited. I want to be a broadcaster. I want to be seen. I had that notion. I had that desire to be famous.
Get inspired on Inspirators, showing on NTA News 24.